Hey, what's up? Welcome to CXC Boss. I'm AJ, and today I'm going to teach you how you can pass CSEC functions. Before we go into functions, though, we have to learn what relations are. A relation is a set of ordered pairs, and we have a bunch of examples right here. So x would have been -7 and y would have been 8, 2 would have been x, and 3 would have been y. So x always comes before y's. X values are referred to as domain and Y values are referred to as range. So for the first example, which is right here, the 7 would have been the domain and 8 would have been the range. In the second one here, 2 would have been the domain and 3 would have been the range. In the example right here, 4 would have been the domain and 8 would have been the range. And in order to do functions properly, you have to know the differences between these. Relations is actually a pretty long concept that I won't get into. This is just the basic concept of relations. So ensure that you know this. And if you want me to do a deeper dive into relations, then I will. But this is something that is mandatory for you to know. Okay, you're doing pretty good so far. So we know what relations are. Now let's get into the big bang functions. So what is the definition of functions? A function is a special relation where every input equals exactly one output. Well, good thing we're not here for definitions because I know this probably confuses you. So let's delete that. Let's actually start to work out a question. So here we have a functions equation. Fx equal 2x plus 1. What does this mean? Okay, so the f in this equation, which is right here, this is the name of the function. So the name of the function is f. X is the input. So together, both of these should be the output of the equation. So function questions are normally like this. Now, find f3 when fx equals 2x plus 1. What does this equation mean? So what we're trying to find is the function of fx to get an output. To avoid confusion, it's better to rewrite the equation. Then all you have to do is wherever you see an x, you substitute it to 3. And because x is the input that they give us, we should function x. So wherever we see x, they tell us to find 3. So you rewrite that equation. Now, all that's left is for you to calculate. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1. So the answer for this equation is 7. And it's simple as that. This is the easiest way function can be done. Okay, now what we're all afraid of. What happens when it's a negative number? Well, it's just as if it was a normal number. You do the same procedure. So first, let us rewrite the equation. Then we look at the input that has been given, which is -2. So we're finding the function for -2. So now we begin to substitute, which is basically we're changing all the x's to the numbers that we've been given. So this would be -2 plus 1. And you're already 96% of the way. Now all you have to do is calculate. So 2 times -2 is -4 plus 1. The -4 plus 1 gives you -3, and that is the answer for this equation. Okay, you think this is easy? Let's try one for yourself. What if they want you to find 5 when fx equal 2x? Solve that one on your own, and then we're going to be doing it together. Okay, let's begin. So first, as I said, and I'll recommend that you always rewrite the equation to avoid confusion. Then now we begin substituting, which is just changing all of the x's to what they tell us to find. So this would be 5. And now we're 96%. We're basically finished. All we have to do is take out our calculators and start to calculate. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1. And then, so the answer would be 11. Simple as that. And this is the easiest functions can be. Okay, let's try this one. Now, there's a negative number not only in the input, but also in the equation. Now, this definitely is a little bit confusing. What do we do? It's the same procedure, don't worry. So as I always say, first, oh my God, rewrite the equation. Now you're literally halfway finished. Now, all you start to do is substitute. So change this x, kick it out of here, and put a -2. Now you're basically done. Now it's time for you to calculate. What is 4 times -2? Now we calculate -10 plus -8, which equals -18, and we are finished. Simple as that. So now we're basically pros at functions. We can definitely go in there and get a full score. But let me stop you there. We still don't know about inverse functions. Now, what is an inverse function? What is so different about an inverse function and how do you work it out? Well, here we have an equation. hx equals 7x plus 4, and we are to find h inverse 1x. Now, this is much different from what we just did. I know you're probably sweating and probably about to come off the video saying that, oh my gosh, what is happening here? But let me stop you in your tracks because it's pretty easy and you don't need to sweat yourself. Just trust me, you can solve this into 3 or 4 or 6, 7 steps. Okay, that's pretty stupid. Okay, now let's actually try and solve this now. Step 1, you have to define the function. How do we define a function? It's not a sentence. Well, all you have to do is to change the input. Now, as we said, first, let's write our equation that we're working with. Oh my God, that pen is very small. Write the equation. And after we write this, then we have our head in the game. Next, as we said, we need to define the function. So defining basically means changing the signs that is behind of the equal sign. So we see that the sign here is x over here. So we're going to be changing that from x to y. Pretty simple, pretty easy, and we're literally 3/4 of our ways to finish. Now, our next step is to interchange them. What is that big word? It just means to swap them again. So yes, we just changed this x to an y, and now we're about to change everything. So not only the things that are before the equal sign, but the entire equation. So this is going to be changed back to an x. This is going to be changed. The 7 we bring back the 7. This is going to be changed to a y, and we carry back the 4. So we basically swap them again. So what is different from this step, which I'll call step 2, than what we did in step 3? In step 2, we only changed the letter that is in front of the equal sign or behind. I don't even really know, but yes, let's say it's in front. Let's say it's in front of the equal sign. While in step three, we change the entire equation, which with whatever letter that we have or whatever input that we have, we swapped it with the others. And remember, when we were doing relations, there are only two type of inputs, x and y. So if it's not x, it's y, and if it's not y, it's x. It cannot be anything else. So we change them all from x to y. Now let's move on to step four, which we group all the y's on one side and all the x's on one side. So let's carry back this x. What else over here has an x? What else over here has an x? Well, we know that if a letter does not have a, a sign attached to it, it's automatically x. So we're going to carry over this 4 over, oh my god, I know this probably is confusing, over the equal sign. And when any letter and when any number is being carried over the equal sign, it changes its sign. So we see right here that the sign is a positive. So when it's carried over, it will no longer be a positive 4, but a negative 4. Then we're going to look back over here again, and we don't have any numbers with x or numbers that don't have a number. And remember, the reason why we're looking for numbers that don't have a number is because if it doesn't have a number, it's automatically x, but and also the ones that actually has on the x. But there's no longer none, so we write back our equal sign. Then what is left? Now we're left with our 7y. Now we're basically, when I say basically, we're literally at the slightest touch to be finished. We're not done as yet though. We just have a couple steps left. Whatever number that is on the right, you're going to put it over itself. So this 7 is going to go over 7 again, right? And whatever happens to one side of an equation happens to the next. Because we put this 7y over 7, because the denominator here is 7, and whatever we do to one side, we do to the next, we're going to also put this over 7. That's a rule. Whatever we do over to one side, we do over to the next. And now, all that is left is for us to cancel out. So two of these are the same, so we cancel these out. And just like that, we're finished. So the answer for this equation would be xy over 4. It would be x minus 4 over 7. And that is the answer. Is it complicated? Let's do a next one. Now, there are multiple types of inverse functions. There are also fractions. Now, before you say, I quit, think about it for a second because it's just as easy. Here's the first question. So, if hx equals 7x plus 2 over x minus 10, what is h inverse x? It's the same steps as if you were finding a normal inverse. So first, as I said, always rewrite your equations so you don't lose train of thought. Then remember what we say. Now we change all of the inputs that are behind the equal signs. That would be y equals 7x plus 2 over x minus 10. Then now we'll change it again. So now we're changing the entire equation. So this would be 7y plus 2 over x minus 10. Now, this step was not told before. So now all you have to do is put the x that you have over here over 1. After this now, you do the cross butterfly multiplication methods, where 1 is going to be times that and x is going to be times that. Let's write it out. X is times y minus 10, while 1 is multiplied by 7y plus 2. Now you multiply the variables inside of the bracket by the inputs that are out. So x times y is xy. Right by the minus sign, x times 10 is 10x. 1 times 7. 1 times 7 is 7y. 1 times 7y is 7y. And 1 times 1 multiplied by 2 is 2. And you put back the addition sign. Just as how we do with the normal inverse, we're now going to put them on their respectful signs. So we put back our xy because we're not going to change that. We carry over our 7y, so we, as we can see here, it doesn't have any sign, so it's automatically addition. So automatically we're adding, so it'd be negative 7y. There's no more y's over on our right side, so we put back our equal. Then we put our 2. And now we're going to be carrying over this over the equal sign, which is going to change the sign to a positive 10x. Now we cancel out all of the y's, which would leave x minus 7 over on our left side, which would now put that over itself. And because we put it over ourselves on the left side, I would also put it over here also. This would also cancel out each other, which now leave us with the answer 2 plus 10x over x minus 7. And this is the answer of the equation. There's actually many more functions, like composite functions and a lot more that I will get into, but this is the end of today's video. I really hope you understand. If there was any problems with how I spoke, how you understood, please leave in the comments down below, and thank you guys so much for watching the video. Ensure that you subscribe, and bye.